All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are stepping up to the plate to look at what is genuinely one of the most seismic shifts in the entire history of American sports. We're talking about the historic, decades in the making collision of baseball's two deeply traditional and historically very separate leagues. Think about it. What actually happens when a century of baseball tradition is completely shattered? Because for over 9 decades, the American League and the National League operated almost like parallel universes. Seriously, they had their own umpires, their own presidents, and most importantly, their own exclusive schedules. The idea of pitting them against each other during the regular season, well, to baseball purists, that was practically unthinkable. Right off the bat, let's define exactly what we mean here. Interleague play simply refers to regular season baseball games played between an AL team and an NL team. Before 1997, if you wanted to see these squads face off, you had to catch them in spring training, maybe at an exhibition like the Hall of Fame game, the All-Star game, or, if they were lucky enough to make it, the World Series. Those were literally the only times these two worlds ever crossed paths. None of the regular season stats or standings ever carried over. But the desire to mix the leagues wasn't exactly a brand new idea that just popped up in the 90s. The concept was actually kicked around as early as 1903 by Cincinnati Reds president August Herman. Decades later, in 1933, Chicago Cubs president William Veeck proposed mid-season interleague games. Fast forward to 1956, and Hall of Famer Hank Greenberg pitched a super detailed plan for 28 interleague games per team. Yet, none of these ambitious proposals ever got off the ground. It ultimately took a massive crisis, the 1994 players' strike, for MLB to finally approve interleague play in 1996, launching it the very next year as a way to win back disillusioned fans. And that brings us to a historic, hot summer night in Texas. June 12, 1997. The Texas Rangers hosted the San Francisco Giants at the ballpark in Arlington. Now, because the other scheduled games that night were way out on the West Coast, this specific matchup started a few hours earlier, making it the very first official regular season interleague game. Texas pitcher Darren Oliver threw the game's historic first pitch. San Francisco's Darrell Hamilton knocked the first hit, and Stan Javier launched the first interleague home run, leading the Giants to a 4-3 victory. Just like that, history was officially made. Section 1. Eras of scheduling expansion, from summer stints to year-round play. So mashing these completely separate league schedules together, that didn't just happen overnight. It really evolved through distinct eras, growing from this fun summer novelty into a permanent year-round fixture. In the very beginning, from 1997 to 2001, teams only played against their corresponding geographic divisions. AL West versus NL West, for example. Then, from 1999 all the way to 2012, MLB carved out a specific window, mostly right in the middle of June and early July, where everyone played their interleague games. It felt like a midsummer baseball festival. But things took a massive turn in 2013, forcing year-round play, which then expanded even further in 2023 to exactly where we are today. Now, that huge 2013 shift, it literally had to happen purely because of a math problem. When the Houston Astros packed up and moved from the National League to the American League in 2013, it left exactly 15 teams in each league. And because 15 is an odd number, it became mathematically impossible for every team to play an intra-league game on the exact same day. Think about it. One team in the AL and one team in the NL would always be the odd man out. The only solution? They had to play each other. This domino effect mandated daily, year-round interleague matchups, ultimately leading to our current era, where, starting in 2023, all 30 MLB teams play each other every single year. Section 2. By the numbers, the American League's dominance. Okay, now that we've got the structure down, let's talk about the actual on-field results. When you pit these two leagues against each other, who actually comes out on top? Well, looking at the definitive all-time statistics through the 2025 season, the American League has flat-out dominated the head-to-head format. It's not even a debate. The AL has rocked up 4,650 wins compared to the National League's 4,412. In fact, in the 29 years of interleague play, the AL has won the season series 20 times. I really want this next number to sink in for a second. 14. For 14 consecutive years, from 2004 all the way through 2017, the American League won the overall season series. That is a massive, astonishing streak of absolute dominance across an entire league. It honestly had the baseball world constantly scratching their heads, wondering what on earth was happening over in the National League. And the data gets even wilder when you zoom in on specific years. Take 2006, easily the most lopsided season in Interleague history. American League teams completely crushed the NL, posting a ridiculous 154-98 record. It wasn't until September 19, 2018, when the Pittsburgh Pirates managed to beat the Kansas City Royals, that the National League finally broke that 14-year curse, guaranteeing themselves a season series win for the very first time since 2003. Section 3. Natural and Geographic Rivalries. Battle for the Cities. But hey, beyond all the win-loss records, the true emotional and cultural core of interleague play has always been the geographic rivalries. This format finally allowed cities and states split by league affiliation to settle the score right there on the field during the regular season. We're talking absolute classics here. The Subway Series between the Mets and Yankees, the Freeway Series for Los Angeles bragging rights, the Windy City Series in Chicago, where, keep in mind, they used to only ever play charity exhibition games. You've got the Ohio Cup, the Citrus Series, the I-70 Series in Missouri, and the Beltway Series. And then there's the quirky one, the Padres and Mariners. They share a spring training complex, but are located on completely opposite ends of the Pacific Coast. Fans jokingly dubbed it the Vedder Cup after Pearl Jam frontman Eddie Vedder, who has deep ties to both cities. And guess what? Starting in 2025, the teams actually partnered with Vedder to create a real, official, physical trophy for the winner of their series. How cool is that? Interleague scheduling also allowed entirely new cultural traditions to blossom across the sport. For instance, the flexibility of these matchups gave us the very first regular season civil rights game, played on June 20, 2009, between the Chicago White Sox and the Cincinnati Reds out at Great American Ballpark. Section 4. The Great Debate: Purists versus Modernists. Now, despite how fun those rivalries are, the very existence of interleague play has never really stopped being a source of intense philosophical debate among baseball fans. Let's impartially break down this ongoing controversy, because honestly, both sides make absolutely valid points here. On the pro side, interleague play undeniably increases attendance, it gives fans a chance to see players who have only ever played in the opposite league, and it guarantees World Series rematches. But on the con side, purists argue that this completely dilutes the exclusive magic and prestige of the All-Star Game and the World Series. There's also the historical issue of schedule disparities, right? Teams in the exact same division might end up playing interleague opponents of wildly different skill levels, which could completely skew a tight playoff race. The modernists, however, will point straight to the unbelievably rare, generation-spanning matchups that this format makes possible. I mean, look at 2004. The Giants and Red Sox played each other for the first time since the 1912 World Series. In 2008, the Yankees visited the Pirates for the first time since their legendary 1960 World Series clash. And in 2016, MLB used the format to open the season with the Mets hosting the Royals, an immediate, high-stakes rematch of the previous year's World Series. And we can't talk about the cons without mentioning a major historical elephant in the room, the designated hitter rule. Prior to 2022, the AL used the DH, while the NL still had their pitchers hit. When playing in American League parks, NL teams often had to stick a bench player in the DH spot or use a star fielder there and replace him on defense. Plus, AL pitchers just weren't used to running the bases in NL parks, which sometimes led to fatigue or worse, injuries, like Chien-Ming Wang's devastating season-ending foot injury in 2008. Many argued this DH disparity was a huge reason for the American League's 14-year winning streak. But with the universal DH officially adopted in 2022, this specific debate has finally been laid to rest. Which brings us right back to the present day. As of 2025, the schedule now locks in an astonishing 720 interleague games every single season. Each team plays a 6-game series against its natural geographic rival, plus a 3-game series against the other 14 interleague opponents. What started as just a fun little few weeks in June is now deeply, permanently woven into the everyday fabric of Major League Baseball. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Looking back at the totally separate parallel histories of the American and National Leagues, and then looking forward at the 720 crossover games we now get every single year, was breaking a century of baseball tradition ultimately worth it? Did it overwrite the exclusive magic of the World Series? Or did it honor the fans by bringing the sport's greatest potential matchups right to our backyards every single summer? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible history behind the game.